It began innocuously enough, a single Reddit post titled, "Why Can't They Hear Me Screaming?" with an image thumbnail that made your stomach churn, a sepia-toned photograph of a dilapidated house, windows like empty eye sockets, and the unmistakable blurry outline of a figure standing behind one of them. Madison had always been a lurker on Reddit. It was a form of escape from her monotonous 9-to-5 job and her increasingly distant relationship. She would troll the site for funny memes, cute dog pictures, and the occasional unsolved mystery. That evening, nestled into the corner of her worn-out couch, the title of the post piqued her interest. Clicking it open, her pulse quickened. The post contained a detailed account of someone living in their own home, but with an unsettling twist. The writer described being unable to leave any room once they entered, their calls for help never reaching the ears of their family, and a growing sense of something sinister in the house. The details were gruesomely vivid, descriptions of skin going icy cold, feeling invisible fingers brushing against their face in the dark, and hearing soft whispers just beyond comprehension. Every door in the writer's house led to another version of the same room, like a twisted loop. They expressed utter desperation, having tried everything from breaking windows to setting fires, only to have the room reset itself, erasing every trace of their struggle. They concluded the post with, "If you see a house that looks like the one in the image, never go inside." I'd been trapped for what feels like years, but perhaps my message can finally find its way out. Madison felt a chill crawl up her spine. What disturbed her even more were the comments below. Redditors debated the authenticity of the story. Some shared their own experiences with haunted locations, while others dismissed it as an elaborate work of fiction. But as Madison scrolled, she came across a comment that froze her blood. It was a series of coordinates with the chilling message, "Visited the house today. It's real. Don't believe me? Check for yourself." Glancing at the thumbnail again, Madison was struck by a nauseating realization. The house bore an uncanny resemblance to the old, abandoned property just 2 blocks from her apartment. She recalled her childhood dares to approach the house and the unsettling stories that the elderly neighbors whispered about the place. Could this be the same house? The one she walked past every day? Pausing, Madison turned her head slowly towards her device's microphone. "What would you do if faced with a similar situation?" she asked her viewers, her voice quivering slightly. "Would you investigate, ignore, or run?" Unable to shake off the unsettling feeling the post instilled, Madison found herself drawn to the haunted whispers of her past. Over the following week, she'd find herself making detours, purposefully walking past that eerie house. Each day, it seemed as though the building itself was beckoning her, its time-worn walls containing tales of despair and dread. With the sheer force of curiosity gnawing at her, Madison decided to pay a visit to old Mrs. Henderson, the neighborhood historian, hoping to uncover the truth about the house's infamous past. Mrs. Henderson's living room was a cacophony of antique clocks, each ticking away at its own pace. The room smelled of mothballs and age. The elderly woman, draped in a heavy knit shawl, listened intently as Madison relayed the Reddit post. A shadow passed over Mrs. Henderson's eyes as she began to speak. "That house, dear, is the Mirewood residence. Owned by the Mirewoods, a family that suddenly disappeared one evening. Neighbors said they'd hear screams echoing from the house, but when investigated, all they found was silence." Madison felt her heart racing, her palms sweating. The tale was becoming far too real. She learned that, over the decades, many had ventured into the Mirewood residence, driven by dares or mere curiosity. But not everyone came back out. Some of those who did emerge were never the same, speaking in tongues, their eyes distant, as if they had witnessed something too horrifying for words. Mrs. Henderson ended her story with a warning: "The house has a way of drawing people in, but it doesn't always let them go." That night, Madison lay in bed, the story replaying in her mind. The whispers of the house seemed louder than ever, and her dreams were haunted by the blurry figure from the Reddit post. Against all reason, Madison decided to do a live stream investigation of the Mirewood residence. Maybe, she reasoned, if she could confront the legends and unravel the truth, the house's hold over her would finally break. Before embarking on this perilous journey, she turned to her followers, her voice a mixture of excitement and trepidation. What would you do if faced with a similar situation? Would you heed the warnings or chase the truth, even if it might consume you? The night of revelations. The evening air was thick with fog as Madison approached the Mirewood residence. She had equipped herself with a flashlight, a camera, and her smartphone for live streaming. The dilapidated porch groaned under her weight, and the rotting scent of decay hung heavily. With her heart in her throat, Madison began the live stream. Tonight, we uncover the truth behind the Mirewood residence, she whispered into her phone, hoping to capture every moment for her viewers. The front door, surprisingly, yielded to her gentle push, revealing a grand hallway shrouded in shadows. As she ventured further in, the ambience changed. The walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own, echoing the heartbeats of those who'd entered and never left. Madison's flashlight beam illuminated chilling scenes room after room. Chairs rocked of their own accord, cold breaths brushed past her neck, and soft lullabies played from unseen sources. The atmosphere was stifling, the pressure building like a storm ready to break. In what seemed like the main living area, she found something unexpected, a journal, aged and weathered, but its pages filled with neat handwriting. Skimming through, Madison realized it was the diary of a Mirewood family member. The entries began as mundane day-to-day accounts, but slowly transformed into frantic scribbles detailing terrifying encounters with an otherworldly entity. The last entry was the most harrowing. The house won't let us go. It feeds off our fear, trapping us in an eternal loop. I hear its whispers, always beckoning. Suddenly, the ground beneath Madison shifted. The room spun as she was transported to another version of the same space. Disoriented, Madison felt an overwhelming sense of déjà vu, the Reddit post flashing through her mind. She tried to flee, but every door led her back to the same room. Panic gripped her. In the background of her live stream, viewers could now see shadowy figures moving past souls trapped within the Mirewood walls. Madison's breathing grew labored, the weight of the house's history pressing down on her. Desperately seeking a connection to reality, Madison addressed her viewers, her voice edged with raw fear. What would you do if faced with a similar situation? How do you escape when every turn leads you deeper into the nightmare? With every futile attempt to leave, Madison's desperation grew. Hours seemed like days, days seemed like years. The once familiar surroundings of the house twisted into malevolent versions of themselves. Walls oozed with an unidentifiable black substance, and the air grew colder and more oppressive with each passing moment. Madison, usually a beacon of strength, began to crumble. Her once steady hand now trembled, causing the live stream to become a jittery representation of her descent into madness. Every so often, the figures of past victims would brush past her, their touch icy and their eyes vacant. In a last-ditch attempt, Madison sought to communicate with these trapped souls, hoping they might know a way out. Drawing a deep breath, she addressed one of the figures, its appearance similar to the blurry image from the original Reddit post. Please, she begged, her voice breaking, show me a way out. To her surprise, the figure turned to face her, its features slowly coming into focus. It was a woman, her face etched with despair and pain. She beckoned Madison to follow her. Through winding hallways and shifting rooms, they journeyed together until they reached a door Madison hadn't noticed before. It was old, with peeling paint, but it pulsed with a different energy, a possible way out. The woman pointed to the door, her lips moving soundlessly. Madison could barely make out the whispered words, "Face your fear, it's the only way." Hesitating for a moment, Madison remembered the journal's last entry. Maybe this was the exit, a final confrontation with the house's malevolent force. stepping through, she turned to her viewers, her voice wavering with emotion. What would you do if faced with a similar situation? Would you face your deepest fears head-on or let them consume you? As Madison stepped through the door, she found herself in an eerily serene room, a stark contrast to the rest of the house. The walls were lined with mirrors reflecting distorted versions of reality. At the center stood an old grandfather clock, its pendulum swinging rhythmically. Approaching the clock, Madison could see her own reflection in its ornate glass surface, but something was amiss. Within the reflection, she wasn't alone. The shadowy figures, including the woman who had led her here, surrounded her mirror image. The air grew thick with anticipation. Suddenly, the clock began to chime, each toll more haunting than the last. As it struck the 12th chime, the room was plunged into darkness. From the void, a voice resonated, deep and chilling. "Why have you come here?" it demanded. Swallowing her fear, Madison replied, "To free myself and the others trapped here." A cold laughter echoed. "To leave, you must face and conquer what you fear most," the voice sneered. As the words lingered, the room was illuminated once again. Madison found herself facing her own reflection, but it was a twisted version of herself. Her eyes were hollow, her face gaunt and pale. It represented all her insecurities, doubts, and fears. The two Madisons locked eyes, the tension palpable. With a guttural scream, the doppelganger lunged. The room echoed with the sounds of their struggle, but Madison, driven by the desire to free herself and the others, fought with an unmatched fervor. After what felt like an eternity, Madison emerged victorious, her doppelganger dissolving into mist. The room began to quake, the walls crumbling as the house's malevolent hold weakened. The next moment, Madison found herself outside the Mirewood residence, the early morning sun stinging her eyes. The house, though still standing, seemed different, as if a weight had been lifted. Dazed, Madison ended her live stream. "Thank you for being with me through this ordeal," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Together, we faced the unimaginable." She paused, taking a deep breath before addressing her viewers one last time. What would you do if faced with a similar situation? Remember, sometimes confronting our deepest fears is the only way out. If you've made it this far, brave souls, remember to support the sacred screams of our Sanctum. Like, subscribe, and leave your tales of terror in the comments below. Until next time, face your fears, for they may be the key to your salvation.